Hello, and welcome to this tutorial. This time we are going to work on a waterfall photography. This is a long exposure photo taken in a local waterfall just outside my hometown in Norway. I've actually been here many times shooting this waterfall, which is a pretty cool waterfall, but I've never seen this detail before. And this photo actually turned out to be the best one I have from this waterfall. Which shows that it's sometimes it's better to look at the details and not the whole picture. The shot was taken on a cloudy day, and also the sun was right above me, which gave the waterfall some soft light coming from above. And as soon as I saw this motif, I knew that cold blue color would look good on this shot. And I want everything to be cold, the light and the shadows, and I want it to seem like the log is really freezing. So we will start by cropping the shot. So we go up to crop overlay, then choose aspect. I always choose 4:3. If you're post processing for Instagram, you can choose 5:4. I think I will crop this just a bit because I want some more focus on the log, and I want it to be in the rule of third. So we'll just drag this down a bit. And I also want some of the darker parts at the bottom of the picture. I also don't think I will have this, there's just a part of a rock coming in here, so we crop that away also. So we get just a waterfall on the right side. But I still want to keep some of the highlights on these parts, which we'll work with later on. When you're happy with the crop, just push enter. Since we will be working a lot with the blue color on this one, we're going to start with calibration. And then we're going to bump up the saturation on blue primary. This slider affects yellow, green, and blue. So I think we just take it to plus 100. Effects transform I never use. Lens correction, we can check the remove chromatic aberration. There is no chromatic aberration on this one, we will just check it anyway. I think on this one I will leave the enable profile correction off because I think it looks better without it. We can sharpen it just a tiny bit. Take down the radius and the detail for most details in the sharpening. And there is some slight noise on this, so we can take up the noise reduction just a bit. But I don't want it too much because I want at least the rocks on the left side to be sharp. Then we will jump to the basic panel. And here I will drag the slider to a cold blue color. And also we can put some green into it to make it even colder. Exposure, we can adjust it just a little bit. Yeah, not that much. Also, we can add some contrast, but I want this photo, I want it to be pretty soft, so I'm not gonna adjust the contrast very much. The highlights are way too wide, so we're gonna drag this one bit a lot. Add some more shadows so get some more details in the photo. Bring up the white and down on the blacks, which will give it some extra contrast. I don't think I will use clarity on this one, but I will use the dehaze slider. This is cool to use when I'm working on waterfall photos because it gives the photo some extra haze. So we'll drag this one on the minus side. And finally, we can add some vibrance and saturation. I think perhaps now it's a bit dark, so we'll adjust the exposure just a little bit. And if you hold the mouse cursor over here over the slider and then push the upper button on your keyboard, you can adjust just tiny details. I think that will do for now. Then we go over to the tone curve. So we'll add a small S shape on the tone curve on the RGB channel. And also adjust the shadows. So just lift this one up to get some fading into the shadows. It will make them a bit brighter. Also, we want this the photo to be cold, so we'll add some blue color to also to the shadows. We choose the blue channel, and we'll lift this one just a bit. Then we'll adjust some of the colors. And I think I will take down the blue to make it yeah, even a bit more cold. I think perhaps this blue needs some more color, so we'll add some saturation. And we can also add some details on the blue color, so we can add just a bit of luminance. Then we go over to split toning, which gives color to highlights and shadows. And usually I will have a warmer color in the highlights and a darker shadow in the shadows, or a cooler color in the shadows. This way we get a nice transition from warm to cool colors. But this one I want to be really cold, so I will add cold colors to both highlights and shadows. So we'll drag the hue slide up to the colder colors. Then add some saturation. And the same with the shadows. not too much. Next up, we're going to work with light and shadows. This one I want just to strengthen the light coming from the top. So we'll add some shadows at the bottom and on the left side, and perhaps some on the right side. So we'll start by taking the graduated filter, and we'll drag it from the bottom and up. Then take down the exposure to add some shadows. I still want to preserve some of the highlights coming here, so I'm not going to take it down very much. Then hit done. Then we'll take another graduated filter, then drag it from the left side. And I don't want the light to be coming in a straight line, so I always tilt the filters just a bit. If you hold the mouse cursor over this, you will see which part of the image will be affected. Then we take down exposure. I'm going to make it pretty dark. But I still want to preserve some of the light, at least on this part of the rocks, to make it look like the light is hitting this one, but not in the shadows. I will also bring down the highlights. And add some shadows. I think I want some darker shadows in this area, so I can right click on this one, then duplicate this filter. And I think I will tighten it just a bit. And I'll lift the exposure so it doesn't get too dark. Also remove on the highlights. Yeah, the shadows can be at the same. Next up, we gotta make the right side of the picture a bit darker. So we'll take a new filter. Take down the exposure. Yeah, perhaps add a little bit of a shadow. One more filter from the right. Take down the exposure. And add some shadows for the details. So now we're going to add a light source to it. Then we use the radial filter. And I want, as I said, I want the light to be coming from the top and down. So we'll drag a circle. And twist it just a bit. I also want the circle to affect some of the rocks here. So it seems like there are also a light hitting on the rocks, not only on the waterfall. On this one, we'll take exposure up. Yeah, and always remember, if you want it to affect the inside, push the invert button. If it's off, it's on the outside. Add some exposure. Also some more strength to the highlights. Add some shadows. I also want it to be a bit more haze, so we'll take down the haze.